Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the February 19th, 2020 City Council meeting. At this time, could I have Pastor Kathy Pinion come forward from the Mercy Springs Church of the Nazarene for the invocation?
Our Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for all the things that you do for your children. We pray that the decision made here tonight will honor you and help this community to grow in the right direction. Be with each of the leaders here tonight. Bless them and their families and keep them safe. And at this moment, I'd like to lift up the first responders in our city, Lord, and in this nation and the military, and ask you also to bless them and keep them safe as they serve you to keep us safe. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I'd like to call to order the City Council meeting of February 19th, 2020. And Chief, would you lead us in the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Let's go on to roll call. Director Maloney?
Maria? Here. Johnson Santos? Jones? Present. Lewis? Vololta?
Here. We do have a quorum. Consideration of approval of agenda. Do I have a motion? Mr. Santos?
Thank you. I make a motion to approve the agenda as stated.
Mr. Jones?
Second.
Motion by Santos, second by Jones for the approval of the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? None carried. Public forum. Members of the public may address the City Council members on any item of interest that is within the jurisdiction of the City Council, in which includes agenda and non-agenda items. No action will be taken on non-agenda items, and speakers are limited to a 5-minute presentation. Detailed guidelines are posted on the Council Chamber informational table. I would remind everyone that when you come to the podium, please state your name and your city of residence. And also, if you have a cell phone, please place them on vibrate or turn them off. Is there anyone who would like to speak at the public forum?
So, my name is Bhargav Joshi. I'm coming from San Jose downtown, and I own a property in Los Banos next to the City Hall. Recently, the City of Los Banos has enacted the paid property business improvement district. There has been a lot of irregularities in the voting process and the assessment. My county tax used to be $13,000. With this new method, at one point in the middle of the process, it was $3,000 increase. At the end of the process, it became $7,900 increase every year. So after 5 years, I'll end up paying $40,000 towards the improvement of the district, and the benefits will be not in the proportions. So basically, I have a lot, a vacant lot, and the building. Both are charged at the same rate of 26 cents per square foot. The county charges property tax based on the building and then land and the fixtures, but this new tax system just accounts for a square footage and a flat rate for every property owner, regardless of their location and then condition of the building, whether it's old, new. The economic benefit will vary according to the condition of the building. So I tried to register my protest earlier 2-3 times with the several folks here. It has not gone anywhere. So I'm coming here to officially register my protest and asking for a fair assessment of the property.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak at the public forum? Okay.
Alexei Dvorkin, resident of Los Banos. Greeting residents, members of the legislative and executive organizations of City of Los Banos. My name is Alexei Dvorkin, and I'm one of the residents of Los Banos who was impacted by the recent data breach. As one of many concerned residents, I have a few questions to the members of the legislative and the executive organization of the City of Los Banos. I suppose under ideal circumstances, members of the legislative organizations would be asking these questions from the executive organization, but it is what it is, and thus it appears that I need to do it myself. To assist you with record of questions, I have handouts that contain questions that I will ask next. This way you don't need to take notes. Although it might be unreasonable to expect any of the answers today, it is reasonable to expect those answers within a couple of weeks from today. So I'll have handouts. I don't know if Chief Breezy wants to. Okay. All right. How many residents of the city were impacted by data breach? Observations indicate that the group of residents that was impacted by the data breach does not include all city residents. What do the impacted residents have in common aside from being impacted by data breach? What is or was the title of the person in the organizational structure of that employee that was issued the city-owned laptop that was stolen? What was the reason the above-mentioned employee was issued city-owned laptop instead of using desktop-equipped workstation located at the place of employment? What was the reason the above-mentioned laptop contained personal information of impacted residents? How typical is it for city employees to have residents' personal information on electronic devices that can be easily removed from the place of employment? What are the reasons city employees need to have access to residents' personal information outside of the place of employment? How many city-owned laptops currently contain residents' personal information? What investigative efforts have been taken to determine whether or not the above-mentioned data breach wasn't intentional theft of residents' personal information? What disciplinary actions have been taken to hold city personnel accountable for above-mentioned data breach? How does the city plan to compensate the residents impacted by the data breach for identity theft protection service expenses? That is all I have for today. We'll be expecting answers in a couple of weeks, I suppose.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak at the public forum?
Is Alfred Rivera. I live here in Los Banos. I also came about the data breach. What I want to know is what guarantees, because of what's going on with my family right now, my information was breached. None of you know or can guarantee the safety of my children, because I cannot talk about what's going on right now. We are currently in court, and I would like to know what's going to be done with this data breach. This is sensitive information of where I live, my children live, and I'm very concerned that nothing's going to be done about it. And I know the police department does what they need to do in their job, and they have a lot of things that they have to do, but none of you here can guarantee my kids' safety. My information was taken. Even though my record is public record, it doesn't matter what's going on right now with my family. There's nobody here that can guarantee my kids' safety except for me. So I'm very concerned about this city, about who's running it and what's going on right now. Because if something happens to one of my children, somebody needs to answer. So I don't know why you people have my information or have a city employee that has my information that would be breached, and none of you know what's going on right now. So you got that benefit of the doubt, but you shouldn't know what's going on right now because no information should ever been taken. My family is at serious risk right now.
serious risk. And I will do anything by any means possible to protect my family, no matter what. My son was almost killed. And now my information, my address, people who live in my house, everything is out there for everybody to see. To me, I feel disrespected because I trusted this city to keep that information private. And now people know where I live. Anybody can break into that computer and anybody can do anything. And now my address could be posted anywhere or because of what's going on right now. I feel highly disrespected. But like I said, I will protect my family by any means possible. And I don't know what you people are doing over here or what that city employee was doing, but somebody needs to start thinking. There's other things going on that you guys don't know about and people at risk. And now my kids are at risk. And I'm not going to have it. I don't care if anybody comes after me, but my children are innocent. You guys need to find out what's going on and why that city employee has my information. Why was my information breached? No city employee should have my information because of what's going on right now in missaid courts. I don't know what you're gonna do, but you need to do something. Because ain't nobody gonna come after my children just because somebody made a mistake. That's a big mistake. And now you know it's a very big mistake. So I hope you figure out what's going on. I will not let my children be hurt because somebody simply can't keep their equipment or gear or whatever they had secure. If they have sensitive information, should never have been left in a car. The people, for all you know, for all I know, the people that we're in court for did it on purpose to get my address. I don't know, you don't know. These people work underground and behind closed doors. I hope you figure it out. But like I said, ain't nobody gonna come after my kids just because you people can't keep sensitive information out of other people's hands. It's not gonna happen. And I hope you figure it out. That's all I got to say.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak at the public forum? Not seeing or hearing anyone, I will now close the public forum, bring it back to council level, and we will go on to item 6, consideration of approval of consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and we voted on in one motion unless removed from the consent agenda by a city council member. And tonight we have
Items on the consent agenda are as follows. Warrant numbers 220240 through 220547 in the amount of $1,080,800.60. Minutes for the February 5th, 2020 City Council meeting. City Council Resolution number 6182, authorizing the release of unclaimed checks pursuant to California Government Code Section 50055 to the City of Los Banos. And the items are to be approved as submitted.
Okay, is there any city council member that would like to remove an item for discussion? If not, do I have a motion? Mr. Jones?
Yeah, a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Mrs. Lewis?
Second.
Motion by Jones, second by Lewis for the approval of the consent agenda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? None carried. Director Maloney, could you tilt the microphone a little more towards you? Thank you. Okay, let's go on to item 7, industrial recruitment strategy update presentation. And we're going to go to Director Elms.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. So tonight, we will be having a demonstration from Chabon Concepts. I have Vicki Dahl here from Chabon Concepts. As you may recall, last year we had Audrey Taylor here from Chabon Concepts. They had done a presentation for us on the city's industrial recruitment strategy. And tonight, the demonstration that Vicki is going to present to you is basically the foundational piece that we've been working on to implement our strategic plan. This is just step one of a multi-step process, which Vicki's going to talk about. But we wanted to demonstrate tonight what we've been working on. This particular website is Story Maps. It's very engaging. So now I'll turn it over to Vicki, and she can kind of explain what we've been doing behind the
Been doing,
scenes.
yes. Thank you, Stacy. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Appreciate the opportunity to come here and show you what we have been up to the last few weeks or months. So again, as Stacy said, this is what we call a story map because it's built on an ArcGIS platform. And I'm just going to kind of scroll through and talk about the website. So this first page is meant to orient the reader, viewer, to where Los Banos is, some of the advantages of Los Banos and where you are in the world. Begins to introduce the Northwest Industrial Area. That one. Talks about the strength and the history of agriculture in the area. And the city's support for economic development, ag industry, and manufacturing and small business. So this is the kind of the introduction. These are some of the key messages that were determined the last year or so when Audrey did her work down here. So the city has market access, you have a large workforce, you have property that's ready, and you have a strong business climate as well as a lot of good education and training resources, as well as a safe and affordable quality of life. So these are, I hate to say, but sometimes the typical marketing words that communities use. We are building here is a business case website. So rather than just state these competitive advantages, what we do is prove them throughout the website. So we prove them with facts, with data. Okay, so the next tab is the community profile. Again, it talks a little bit about the history of Los Banos, some of the advantages. This infographic is really is meant to be a quick facts and figures. What I would like to do is there's a feature where you can either click on it and it will expand to the full page. We can also put a link in there so that someone, if they wishes, could download the information. But this is meant, so this is the top row is the demographics and some of the key information on the demographics. This is the talent, so the workforce. And I can hardly read that from here, I apologize. So we have those, some of the education achievements. And the last part is the economics, so the affordability, the housing affordability. So this would be the percentage of people in Los Banos who can afford to buy a median-priced home. And that compared very well with other communities throughout the state. The next tab then talks about the workforce. So there's a large pool of workers that employers can draw from. This gives each of the community colleges within the area and the number of career and technical education students that are currently enrolled. So that is like 60,000 students enrolled in career and tech CTE programs that have to do with ag, have to do with manufacturing, logistics, IT, construction.
Yes.
This current screen that you have, could you push it back down, please?
Up here?
Yeah, no, the community college.
Oh, uh-huh.
Yes, thank you. I don't see Los Banos Community College in here. It's part of the Merced College, but it's a Los Banos campus.
Well,
Was
and
that
okay.
information?
I think it would be included in the total here. We can pull it out. If I can get that information, I can pull it out. I do talk about it up here, the full-service Los Banos campus, okay? And I can pull that out. I can make that much more evident and obvious,
I appreciate
which
it.
is the
Thank you.
beauty of doing things electronically.
So the enrollment of, in these colleges, are they all CTE, career technical education?
These particular ones are, yes.
Okay, and the populations, say, Reedley College, they have 8,035 people involved in career technical education?
Right.
Okay,
They aren't necessarily full-time students, but they are involved or receiving some sort of career and technical education
so they could be
training.
taking one class
Right,
or, what?
right,
Okay.
right.
All right,
Yeah.
okay.
And very specifically, these are the ones that they said involved in, right here, transportation, advanced manufacturing, agriculture. This is as good a breakdown as I could get from the community colleges. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Then we also call out the two universities that are very close by and the number of undergraduate and graduate programs. And then really, I think one of the messages for employers is to be able to offer employees a much better commute that many of them are having right now. So again, this is a infographic that'll just show a real good, quick snapshot of what's going on. And again, I will put in a link there to make it downloadable, make it larger to read. But essentially, this first column is 0 to 5 miles. We generally use the City Hall as a point of reference. Then we go from 6 to 25 miles. And then we go 26 to 60 miles. And that was based on, the 60 miles is kind of based on a reference of that we got from census as far as how many people are commuting how far. And I will add two here, which I think it will make it much more relevant and readable, is to put in a radius map so that people can see just what communities are included in this ratio or this radius.
Yes, go ahead.
You have a map for these demographics later on down the line, because the 60 miles, that only takes us from here to Morgan Hill. It doesn't go into the Bay Area.
I'll double check, because I was thinking that it did, but I will
it doesn't.
double check.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, then we'll run new numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can tell you because I used to live in Morgan Hill. And
Okay.
it's 60 miles from my house to Morgan Hill.
Okay.
Mileage is by as the Burke.
Wait. Do you want to speak, Mr. Jones? Sure. Okay. Go ahead.
On this mileage, is it the actual route or is it as the crow flies?
A crow flies.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that might be.
And so we're saying over 500,000 people, and that is, the 500,000 is a draw around here?
Within that 60, well, it's really 700,000, because you have to add each of these numbers together.
Yeah,
So,
but I mean,
yes.
26 to 60 mile,
Could-
649,000
Right.
people, almost 650,000 people.
Are in-
and are, okay, commute anywhere from 26 to 60 miles. Okay, so and we need to know kind of what communities we're talking about.
Right.
With the population too.
Right, which
Yeah,
is why
and-
we're going to add a map there, which will make it much clearer.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Freya?
So the way I understand this is, that's the population that's the actual population of that age within that circle, right?
This is the population, each of these, independent, is the population of the workforce, so
Of
ages.
the workforce within that circle.
Within that
So
circle.
20, 60 miles, that's all the way up through Modesto,
Right.
Turlock,
Yeah.
northern Fresno, Madera, Clovis, along with the Bay Area cities.
Along
that
with the
feed
Bay
us.
Area, right.
Yeah, so that's why that number's so high.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So, so then we have so we have the median age, we have education, so those with some career, some college, some career training, as well as the percent of this population up here who has either a bachelor's or a more advanced degree. This is the business community, so the number of businesses, how many they employ, and this is a number of employment within manufacturing itself. Down here is more the economics or the affordability. So you can see the cost of living increases the further out from Los Banos you go. So this says that the cost of living in Los Banos is 119% more than the nation as a whole. The nation as a whole is 100. So if you're above 100, then you're a little bit more expensive than the nation. If you're below 100, you're cheaper than the nation. I can guarantee you that all of California is above 100. But as you go out to that 60 miles, it's 177%. And further into the Bay Area, you're getting into 200 and some percent. Okay, so then we introduce the Northwest Industrial Area, which was an area I think that was prioritized during the work that was done in the past year. We have some photographs and just going to put a little blurb or so about each of the different industrial or business parks that are available in the area. And some of them we don't have enough information on yet, but I wanted to get down to the detail. Okay, so this, it really profiles the industrial area, talks about where the location is, describes it, discusses the market access, so the highways, the rail and highways, airports. So the real estate, discuss real estate, the type of property, it's flat, whether it's small parcels, larger parcels. Again, talks more about the workforce, the type of employers that are in the area. And then we get into these last two tabs are the two feature sites within the Northwest Industrial Area. The first is this parcel right here outlined in yellow, which is a 9-acre. And again, the message is the business owner can build some wealth. They can own their own facility here, where there would be, more than likely would be leasing if they're in the Bay Area. So we talk about the property, the access, dimensions, besides size, a lot of information on the zoning. And some of this is utility map. A lot of this information is a start, and we're going to be expanding on the information that's in there. So we'll have, if we can get contact information or emails to the different utility providers, and hopefully maybe even get some, that's a mistake. I don't know why they're in there twice, but my apologies. So in here we have a direct link to the city's open counter and to the zoning check. We need some images here, but we will have a schedule of the taxes, rates, and basis. If there's any environmental documents that are associated with these parcels, then we can load them up for download. And this is the offer, where we'll talk about any programs or incentives or assistance that would be available. And then we put in, so this is the parcel, we put in how a 50,000 square foot building could be situated on that parcel. And in talking earlier this afternoon with the property owners, we thought we would add a page that could show how a 75 or 100,000 square foot building could fit on that parcel as well. And then we put in a little virtual building. Little 3D and an aerial view. And so we'll have the contact information for Stacy. And then the 1 acre, which is just to the east of the 9 acre, right up here, is much the same layout, same type of information. And we also talked with this property owner about maybe doing an additional, because he would be willing to combine some parcels to get a larger user in there. So we'll demonstrate that as well on here. And I think we do have let me find it. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we do have a 3D building here as well, just to show how it could be situated. And what we'll also be doing on the overall map here is identifying some of the assets and some of the uses of the food production company that is here, locate the hospital, and some of the other things that we had talked about this afternoon. So Stacy will be taking a look at it and making sure that I wrote all the right things in there. And it's as soon as we get a few of those things fleshed out, it's ready to go live, and we can hyperlink it to the city's website, and we're ready to go. As I said, continuing to build on it as more information is available, as more properties that might become available, we could add pages to that. So once it does go live, that is our next steps are then to pull together a list of potential users, and we'll profile the users based on their operations, the type of operations that they're doing, most likely from the East Bay area, the type of or size of building that we think that they would be looking for, and specifically that they are currently leasing their building. And at that point, we will start dialing the phone, making calls, and sending materials, sending information, and making more follow-up calls, and hopefully get you a good lead. Okay. Any other questions?
Any other questions from council? Yes, Mrs. Santos.
I was wondering about when it goes up on the website, will it be essentially like a little link to it, or is it like a tab within our own page that it would come up as?
It'll
I think it'll be a tab.
So just how we have the zone check and we have other tools, it's under doing business, and we'll have something that refers to industrial recruitment or industrial properties. That way, site selectors specifically looking for economic development information can go directly to that. But it'll work seamless with our website in that the user wouldn't know that it's being hosted technically on another website. It'll just link them directly to this website for story maps.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate
So this is a work in progress, as you can tell. We're working on this. Vicky's working on adding some more information. And then we'll be working though with brokers and property owners as properties become available to be able to market their properties on our website as available property within the community, and just to be able to tell our story. Like Vicky said, one of our biggest assets is that it is cheaper to do business in Los Banos, and that's our story that we're really trying to tell. That's our narrative that we really want folks to take home with them. So next steps, and Vicky hit on this, but we're preparing that business case. Those target industries are artisan foods. We believe that's our niche, where Los Banos can really create essentially a place in the market for ourselves that no other community or most communities aren't really targeting. So we think that artisan foods could be a really great niche for Los Banos. Then next would be preparing a virtual building. So we saw some of that within the website, and we have the consent of a couple of our property owners that we're working with that we can do a virtual spec building so that site selectors looking at Los Banos can see what that 50,000 square foot building looks like, or a 20,000 square foot building on a particular piece of property. And then, as Vicky stated, last we'd be identifying those target businesses, sending out that material, following up with emails, letters, phone calls, and just trying to make that contact with those leads and letting them know that Los Banos would be a good fit for them.
Okay, any other questions from council? Okay, thank you so much. Okay, that was informational only. Let's go on to item 8. Consideration of approval of City Council Resolution Number 6183, accepting the 2018-2019 fiscal year audit reports consisting of the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, CAFR, and the Government Auditing Standards Report. Director Williams?
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight we have Josh Giosa with Price Page and Company. He's going to present the financials, and we'd both be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Oops. Wrong one. Oh, do you have a PowerPoint? Oh, okay. All right. Let's try this, council feed.
Probably difficult enough just to listen to me talk about numbers rather than having to look at them as well, so I'll spare you that.
All right.
All right, you guys hear me all right?
Oh, real well.
Great. Good evening, Mayor Vialta, Council. My name is Josh Giosa. I am an audit manager at Price Page and Company. I have approximately 13 years of experience. I think 6 on this audit, 5 as a manager of this audit. I'm a CPA, have been, I think, for the last 5 or 6 years or so. Anyway, brief introduction. I know you have a lot on your plate this evening, so my intention is to spend about 15 minutes up here, get through this, answer any questions if you have, and then I'll be on my way. All right? Does everybody have their financial statements available in front of them? Probably about, you guys have a CAFR, so there's going to be a lot of information, a lot of really good information before you get to where I would like to start, which is our independent auditor's report on page 1, which is more like page 20. Everybody, let me know everybody's there. All right, pages aren't shuffling as much. I think I'll get started. All right, so I've got 2 goals tonight. Number 1 is I would like to explain to you, hopefully briefly, what an audit is, all right? And I do that in order to go through our auditor's report, which is really what the city is and council is most concerned with, especially as it relates to what an auditor does. All right, so that's goal number 1. Goal number 2, you're very busy. Not all of you are financial experts. There's a lot of information in here. I'd like to give you, if I'm you, just a little top-down, how do I analyze these financial statements? Not the whole things, just the key parts, because again, there is a lot of information in here. So let's start with goal 1. To our auditor's report, I'd like to discuss really the second and third paragraphs. What these paragraphs do is really distinguish between the responsibilities of management and what the auditor is. And those are key responsibilities that must be separate. One of the key tenets of an audit is that we must maintain independence, both in appearance and fact. In order to maintain independence, we can only do what we're supposed to do, and management needs to do what they're supposed to do. So first, management has two primary responsibilities. Those responsibilities are the preparation and fair presentation of these financial statements in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America, otherwise known as GAAP, otherwise it's known as accounting rules, right? If the financial statements are presented in an accounting manner other than what's allowed under generally accepted accounting principles, then these financial statements would not, we could not give a good opinion on those financial statements. Number two, management is responsible for the design, implementation, and maintenance of internal controls relevant to the preparation of the fair presentation of these financial statements to ensure that they are free from material statement, whether due to error or fraud. Sometimes there's confusion and there's a belief that the auditors are part of the internal control. We are not a part of the internal control of the city. It's our job to gain an understanding of those internal controls in order to assess whether there may be risks of error, whether due to, risk of material error, whether due to error or fraud, all right, or a misstatement. Those are the two primary responsibilities of management. It's our responsibility of auditors to express an opinion on these financial statements. Now, we express an opinion by performing an audit, and an audit is conducted in accordance with really two standards. There's one for private industry. There's an additional layer of rules specifically related to government. The first standards are called generally accepted auditing standards. They're promulgated by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. That's the first layer. The second layer are called generally accepted government auditing standards. Those are promulgated by the Comptroller General of the United States of America. We have to perform our audits in accordance with both of those standards, both of those groups of standards. All right? So that's that. So when we do our audit then, we perform our audit in order to obtain what we call reasonable assurance that the financial statements are not materially misstated, whether due to error or fraud. Reasonable assurance and materiality are two key concepts, and it's really based on the fact that we cannot audit 100% of the transactions. If we were to come in and audit 100% of the transactions, you'd have to hire us on it full time, be way too expensive. We'd probably cripple finance department's ability to actually get anything done. So what we do is we have to assess risk on if there's an error, where would it occur, right? So we do that really as what a four-step process for conducting an audit is. Okay, number one, assess risk. We assess risk in three different ways. Number one, general inquiries. A few of you may have been lucky enough to get what we call our fraud questionnaire, right? If you got that, you fill it out because the first easiest way to find out where there may be errors or where there may be fraud is let's just ask those questions, right? So we ask that of council, we ask that of members of the finance department, we ask that of other staff that may be frustrated with things going on, maybe feel like they have nobody to talk to about those frustrations, right? So that's level one. If we get any of that information and we think that it might lead to what's considered a material misstatement, then we look into it. If it's potentially fraud, whether material or not, we're gonna bring that to the attention of management. If we believe management's involved in it, we'll take it to council, right? So that's step one. Step two, we perform analytical procedures. The great thing, if operations don't change much, we can expect certain consistencies from year to year, certain relationships between accounts, right? If there are changes in operations, we can then expect to see certain changes in the relationships between accounts, both within a fiscal year as well as between fiscal years. If we notice any of those during our initial analysis, we're gonna look into it. We're gonna dive into that and we're gonna see why there are these inconsistencies, at least with our expectations. That's number two. Number three is we gain an understanding of internal controls. We do not provide an opinion on internal controls. We do not audit internal controls. What we need to make sure we're doing is gaining an understanding that one, controls over major processes. So for instance, cash collections have been designed effectively. But you can design perfect controls. If you're not actually abiding by those controls, then they're meaningless. So we gain an understanding that controls are designed effectively. And then we then walk through those controls to make sure they've actually been implemented. If we identify what we would call a control deficiency that can rise to a level of either a material weakness, which is it's a pretty bad one, or a significant deficiency, meaning it could lead to a material error, then we would report that to council. Pleased to report, I don't think we've had one of these for 5 years, that there are no control deficiencies that we consider to be significant or material this year. So I think it was 2014, I think we had one or two, and then nothing since. So we get all that information, we try to figure out, where there's errors, where there's fraud at a material level. We get together as a team and we discuss it. We put together what we call audit programs, which are a list of audit procedures in some of those higher risk areas. Then after we finish that, we come out as a team. If you've been around, you may see a group of 3, 4, 5 of us in the conference room doing some work. We'll work, we'll audit. As soon as we get what we believe to be sufficient audit evidence in order to provide an opinion on the financial statements, we stop auditing. That's our goal. Obtain sufficient audit evidence, provide an opinion. All right, so now we're at the final part. We've done our audit. Now we can give one of 4 opinions. Opinion number 1, called the modified opinion. That's a clean opinion. That's what you want. It's a standard report. We don't have to modify it. Your financial statements are clean. Option number 2 is called a qualified opinion. Financial statement looks pretty good except for these areas. They're definitely wrong. Opinion number 3, a disclaimer. That's when we can't even get the information in order to provide an opinion because things are such a mess. Opinion number 4 is called an adverse opinion. That means, well, we got information and we just know this is wrong and it's just not in good shape. As is every year, pleased to report that we provided we're expressing an unmodified, which is considered a clean opinion, which is our representation that we're providing reasonable assurance that these financial statements are not materially misstated, meaning if you take a look at it, odds are we're asserting you're getting pretty good information. You're getting really good information. So that's good. Any questions to the audit process, the audit report? Anything? Great. All right, so that's goal number 1.
We just want to hear where we're at.
How am I doing? What's that? Yeah. All right, goal number 1, I think I'm jamming through it all right. Goal number 2, if I'm counsel, what do I do with these? All right, without spending 20 hours reading something outside of my level of expertise, how can I glean some useful information from these? All right, everybody, you'll turn to page 3. This is your best option right here, right? This is the management discussion and analysis. This is management taking all of the information from the past year and saying, this is what happened. This is where the changes are. This is where the significant changes in the numbers were. This is why they happened. Here's our budgeting forecast for next year. Here's where we expect to come up. Not every city puts this together. It is a required, it's a required piece of the financial statements. Some cities decide, you know what, it's extra work, don't want to do it. It's 10 pages, it's got great information, management spends a lot of time on it. If there's nothing else you do, I highly recommend reading through this, asking questions of management based off of these 10 pages. All right? That's number 1. That's the most important thing. Number 2, if everybody can turn to page 20. All right, so there's 2 sets of financial statements. I'm sure you've heard this. There's a balance sheet, there's an income statement. Okay, a balance sheet is a snapshot of where the city is, a net position or the financial position of the city at a particular date. In this case, it's June 30, 2019. And what an income statement is says, okay, well, great, balance sheet told you where we are. Now, income statement's telling you, what did you do? What did we do, right? So, If I'm council, what I'm most concerned is do I have enough assets to pay my upcoming bills? And do we have enough revenue coming in to pay our expenditures for the next 30 days, let's say 365 days? All right, so on page 20, the information we're looking at here is our current assets. What do we have now in our current liabilities to pay for what's coming up and what exists at this moment? So in the general fund, the primary operating fund of the city, you'll see the top 4 lines: cash and investments, accounts receivable, taxes receivable, interest receivable, and actually the next one, intergovernmental receivables. Those are money generally expected to come in the next 60 days, generally, right? That's what the city is going to have in cash, either in cash or it's going to get converted to cash within 60 days. So great. There's approximately $17.5 million in the general fund. Now, is there enough to pay for the liabilities? Liabilities are on the next page. Just no need to turn to that. I can tell you the number. It's about $1.5 million. So you have about $17.5 million to pay for $1.5 million of costs that exist at that moment. Pretty good, right? Not on this page, but something else to consider is there any large debt payments that will be coming up soon? The city has no debt. I think it may have paid off the wastewater bond already. City's no debt, no issues with that. Congratulations, right? City's in a very strong financial position in the general fund. Down a little lower, we have our fund balances. We got a couple different things. Let's simplify it. Non-spendable, don't worry about it. Prepaid expenses, those are tiny. All right. Restricted. Restricted means this is the money that has been restricted to be spent for a particular purpose from an outside agency. That could be by law. It could be the city received grant money, right? But it has to be spent for a specific purpose. The next 3 lines, committed, assigned, and unassigned. This is really unrestricted money, okay? These 3 lines are unrestricted. Committed just means that council has set aside, it has designated some money for a particular purpose. That's committed. Assigned means management has set aside some money, some available money for a specific purpose. And then unassigned means it's just available to be spent on really whatever's in the budget that hasn't already had other money assigned to it. Once again, there's about 17 million, 15 million. Great financial position. Any questions with the balance sheet? And really the best way to look at this? Great, I like no questions. All right, on quickly to page 26. Page 26, these are your proprietary funds. They're called proprietary funds because they are meant to have basically bill fees in order to really be self-sustaining funds, right? You're going to collect enough fees to pay for those expenses. They're operated kind of like a business, and therefore they're accounted for like a private, mostly like a private industry would. We're going to say same thing, cash and investments. We have approximately 21.5 million, as well as accounts receivable. That's what's either cash or investments, or will be converted shortly, and it's all unrestricted. And I won't take you to the next page, but there's only liabilities of approximately 400,000. Again, water fund, and we can go across the board. All of the funds are in a very, very strong financial position, and that money is not tied up for specific purposes. It's available if something, let's just say catastrophic happens in one of those funds, then there's plenty of money available to pay for something. That's really all I've got with that. Beginning on page, I believe it's 33. I'm not going to go with it. I'm not going to go through this, but these are the notes to the financial statements. This takes all the information in there and takes a much deeper dive into really more information about cash, more information about investments, more information about capital assets across the board. If you're really interested, you can go through all of that. Again, I urge you read the management discussion analysis. That's where you're going to get the best information. I spoke kind of quickly. Think I'm doing okay on time. Does anybody have any questions? Comments? Concerns? No?
Keep going.
Oh, I'm done.
You're done?
No, yeah, no.
Oh.
If I may say, when I say we haven't had any findings in the last 5 years, it's not because of effort. In some sick way, I kind of enjoy finding errors and fixing it, and I can't do it, and I just can't, and it's not fun. So
We have the highest rating.
you guys do. So to be honest, like there's a lot of municipalities that have a lot of issues in their financial or in their finance department. And I don't know if they take me up on this, but I usually refer to the city of Los Banos to go get some advice on how to make things better. So I don't know if you guys have gotten calls, but they really do an exemplary job running their department. And I'm going to find something.
Well, that's the highest compliment that can be paid when our staff can be the tutors to everyone else.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
And there is one little thing at the beginning, right before the introduction. You'll see there's a award of excellence from the the Governmental Finance Officers Association. If you prepare a CAFR, a comprehensive annual financial report, you get it submitted before December 31st. There's no mistakes, or if there are, they're very trivial little things that really have no meaning. They present this award. Yeah, it's not easy to do. So, and I think the city's gotten it every year I've been here.
Our supervisor's here, so just tell him we don't have any money to give him, so just.
None. Zero. Yeah, none. So.
Wow, Mrs. Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, thank you for the detailed report. And we certainly appreciate the service of your organization. And a really big thank you to our staff, Sonia and your staff, to bring us these remarkable reports every year. There should be some sort of way that we can get recognition at the League of Cities annual, the annual League of Cities conference about this CAFR report that Los Banos gets. I'm pretty sure some large municipalities throughout the state of California aren't in the position of getting something like this 6 years in a row. So I think that's something that we need to look into so that Los Banos can get a shout out and the name on the map for being able to produce such excellent financial reports for our community. Thank you, Sonia.
Anyone else? Well, thank you so much for bringing us this news. And it's now, I have to tell you, we just expect this every year. I have to tell you, we expect this every year. The standards are so high that and I'm at a loss for words because it's just. And thank you, staff. That's all I can say. Thank you, staff. Oh, Sonia, comment?
No, I actually don't have comments. I just didn't want you to leave off the resolution. There is
Oh.
one to adopt.
Oh, no, we'll do that.
That way I can go home and
We'll do that.
go to bed.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Appreciate
Okay.
it. Thank you. See you next year.
All right.
Well, I'll do that, Mr. Mayor, since I have the mic on.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Let's see, we're on item number 8.
8, correct.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 6183 as stated, and just really happy for our city.
Mr. Jones,
Second that.
motion by Lewis, second by Jones, to approve City Council Resolution gratefully 6183. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? None carried. Thank you again, staff. Okay, let's go on to item 9. Consideration of approval of City Council Resolution number 6184, authorizing city manager to execute a professional services agreement with Mark Thomas and Company Incorporated for engineering services for the Pioneer Road widening project. And who we're going to go to? Mark?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good evening, council and mayor. Tonight, we're looking for you, the council to adopt Resolution 6184, which would allow the city manager to enter into a professional services agreement with Mark Thomas and Company Incorporated, specifically their Fresno division, and their manager, Ed Noriega, is here tonight. Thank you, Ed, for coming. And also, the administration of this professional services agreement is to be performed by the Public Works Director, City Engineer. Now, the agreement is for the entire project, all the engineering work, but the actual financial part in this first part of the agreement is not to exceed $152,692 for the Phase 1 PID PSR equivalent, which stands for Project Initiative Documentation and Project Study Report. It's mainly getting our project study report ready for the next round of RTIP. And as you know, just a scope revisit here before we get into a little bit more details about the agreement is this project is approximately 6.5 miles long. It's a 4-lane arterial where Pioneer Road is. It connects at State Route 152 approximately near Merced College and at Ward Road. Well, I say approximately now, we are in the process of doing a planning study, and we have 3 options on the west side that have come up through workshops that we are looking at. We really only have 1 option on the east side, and that's Ward, but we do have 3 options on the west side, and that specific plan will be looking at those options and recommending an alternative in the next few months. And that's where we're heading with that. As far as financing, if you do remember, we did get West Side Regional Measure V funding. We already have an agreement for the Pioneer Road widening project with MCAG's, and they administer the Measure V funding. And that agreement is for $8.65 million, which is estimated to take us up to the construction phase. It might be a little more than that, but at this point, that's what we have. But also, in addition to that, we do have an RTIF money that was given back to us for this specific project. It was not given back, it was agreement to go back into our coffers. And it's specifically for Pioneer Road because it is the only regional project we have on that agreement. And that's $800,000 for that, as well as we do have a $490,000 about federal earmark, which is based for the right-of-way. Now, that will be used towards the end of of the phase before construction, because one thing about a federal earmark, once you accept a federal earmark, the entire project is federalized. And there's a lot of rules involved in that, but we do have that available. It has been earmarked to us. But it will be kept kind of in the back pocket as the budget actually comes to fruition and where it actually ends up being. And as I said, the goal is to get to the point where we can compete and apply for funding for construction for the 2022 RTIP, which has to be submitted to Caltrans and the California Transportation Commission in 2021, about February, March of 2021. So why we are going forward, why we are doing the planning document is we need to make the next phase in order to have any chance of getting any construction money in the 2025 construction begin date that we're looking at. So that's what we're looking at. So, and the PSR is not it's a project study report, so it's not it's more detailed, but not anywhere near what the actual design would be. So that gets us into the door of competing for where the big money for construction might be available for us. And we are estimating the construction's in the $35 million range, so we do need that process. I'll go over a little bit of the process of how we reached our decision to recommend Mark Thomas and Company to the council. We did release an RFQ on October 11th, 2019, and the public notice was issued with that. It was advertised. It was due on November 21st, 2019, and we did get 4 firms that submitted RFQs on that. We did have a 3-person panel that evaluated those 4 firms, and that same 3-person panel actually interviewed the top 2 scoring firms. And on that panel was myself at the time, Greg Pimentel, my assistant public works director at that time, and also the public works director, Dana Herfelder from the county of Merced was kind enough to sit on this panel. After the interviews with the two firms went down, it was unanimous that we wanted to recommend Mark Thomas Company to the council for this project. Mainly is they all have the experience level. Don't get me wrong, they're all very experienced. The Mark Thomas RFQ response brought forward cost-saving measures, which wasn't even asked for in it, but it's some very interesting cost-saving methods of making this project construction actually coming within budget. And they did that in the RFQ process. It wasn't another process. They also had on board, instead of saying we'll talk to them, they also had on board our specific plan consultants, Place Works. They actually were at the table with them. So the amount of cooperation between those two plans would have to be almost, you'd think would be 100% since they're on their team. So they did present a very good, and that's why it was a unanimous recommendation. And what this agreement is for all the engineering work up to construction. But only the first phase is going to be awarded financially with this agreement. The other two phases, although we do have in the agreement, we have budgetary numbers that were given to us. They'll require separate agreement addendums that I will bring forward to the council for approval. So it'll be the same consultant, but we'll bring that forward to council for approval. This is really important because until we have a better scope that comes out of the PSR, it's really hard to get PA and ED numbers, which is project approval and environmental documentation numbers, as well as PS&E numbers, plan specs and estimates. So we do have a budget, and I believe you add up, it's about 7.1 million that the estimate comes in. We do expect to hyper that number down as we get to the phases. We will present that to you because with 8.65, we will be looking for ways to get that down to have more right-of-way money. But we did require them to have a budgetary number. And this was very consistent with everybody that submitted to us. It was really hard to say, they did their best and it was conservative numbers for the other phases because we really didn't have, we haven't done the PSR yet. So let's see where we're at now. So if this is approved, we'll be giving out a notice to proceed during the week of February 24th. And the important thing with this is very important is the kickoff meeting for this project actually will be held with Caltrans. This has been a request from Caltrans, totally agreeable to our consultant. We'll be meeting with them, looking at what the PSR is going to look at. We do have probably 3 intersections that are controlled by Caltrans, which will have their own separate things at those intersections. That's why it's called a PSR equivalent, because some is Caltrans, some isn't. But to get them on board immediately and knowing their review process for this is really important. So we'll probably be doing that in the first 2 weeks in March once we get a little bit of information going forward. If you look at the timeline, it has been stated that by September this project the PSR can get done. These processes, you may lose a month or two, but even losing a month or two on this schedule, we still are definitely within the realm, very much within the realm of getting this on the next RTIP cycle. So this is actually a big step forward to start this process. There's a lot of work that can be done on the PSR before the alternative is the suggestions coming through from the planning process. So in order to not lose time and to not lose a 2-year window, we need to get this done. And like I said, before the planning documents can actually go to an alternative that they would recommend, there's a lot of work that needs to be done in fact-finding for this. So that's where we're at now. Now, the important thing about this is this first part, which is the not to exceed amount of $152,692 for phase 1, was budgeted in the fiscal year 2019-2020 adopted budget. And the city will be receiving 100% reimbursement from Measure V regional funds for this amount. So it's just, we have to show that we spent it, put a request for reimbursement, and we do get reimbursed. So, and it's 100% for this phase of this project. So I'd like any questions on anything on the project. I'd be glad to try to help explain it.
Any questions, council? Not, do I have a motion? Ms. Santos?
Brief question, if you don't mind. How many more meetings will we be having with the community and
With the specific plan?
Yes, with the plan, just to keep it moving.
The specific plan has one, possibly two more workshops. And probably in about a month and a half will be another one. That's when the alternative will be folded out. There is meetings scheduled for, of course, the council and the planning commission also. So we do have a workshop, I think it's a workshop or a general meeting together.
It's a joint study session.
Joint study session, thank you. A joint study session with those two bodies to go over the final recommendations from the specific plan. And that will be both Pioneer and State Route 152. They're going to be coming to you at the same time, because both those are being done together.
Thank you very much. With that, I can definitely make the motion unless anyone has any questions.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 6184.
Okay. Do I have a second? Mr. Freya.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Santos, second by Faria, to approve City Council Resolution number 6184 as read by title. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? None carried. Thank you, Mark, for all the hard work.
Thank you.
If we're going to grow as a city, and the lady who spoke about the economic impact, we're going to need this. So thank you for all the efforts and the staff has put forward. And this is a good project. It's a doable project, and it's not so expensive that there's no reason for anyone to start saying it's going to be too expensive. That's why we can't do it. Thank you. Okay, let's go on to item 10, consideration of approval of City Council Resolution number 6185, authorizing and approving the purchase of approximately 3.6 acres located at 1111 G Street in the city of Los Banos, APN 026-161-003, and a portion of APN 026-161-008 for a future site of the new police station. And we're going to go to Director Fachin again.
Thank you. Second item on the agenda, which is very positive for another project that's very well deserving. We will ask that the City Council adopts Resolution 6185, authorizing and approving the purchase of approximately 3.6 acres located at 1111 G Street. And this is the site of the future police station site. And what this resolution says is we would like to get authorization to go ahead and purchase it, for the city manager to go ahead and process all the documents involved in it, and to do all the necessary paperwork at this time. We do have in here, I do have a timeline, and I'll go over it real quick. It goes all the way back to January 17, 2018. City Council did approve a purchase and sale agreement and a joint escrow instructions for these two properties. They're right next to each other. And if you look at the exhibit, there's one exhibit, and it's A, and it's a grant deed plat. And it shows the southerly portion that we're acquiring. And right above it, although we don't have a map on it, it's more of a deed, is the northerly portion. So those two together are the two parcels of land that we are acquiring. One we're acquiring directly from a grant because it's existing, and one we're doing a grant deed because it's allowed by the Subdivision Map Act for a municipality to split land and buy land through grant deeds. That is allowed. And like I said, in that January 17th day, 2018, council did approve the purchase and sale agreement. A copy of it is in here. So what we have now is, there were several things that had to be done. The site had to be remediated to a certain level for arsenic because of a new old railroad track, and the level was commercial, industrial type uses, not high use for like a school site or something like that. And the area that was done actually was cleaned. We actually received, I believe it was this week, a statement from the water board that says it has been cleaned to the level that's required. One of the other things we had to, it's called a land use covenant. We had to have a land use covenant recorded on this land that basically says when we work in those areas that was clean, it still has to be tested, and if you're digging into it, the people working on it still have to have certain protection on their bodies and all. So when you design this, you try not to put the utilities in that area and all, but even if you do, it's not a major issue because the intent is to keep that surface solid where those are. And it's just a portion of this land. So that was the second big thing that needed to be done. And then if you happen to go by the site, which is just west of the courthouse, you'll see it has been cleaned up to a stage that we thought was definitely acceptable at this time. The last thing, and I'm not sure, it's in the process of being done, but the final executed grant deeds will be sent to the title company. I believe they are now or almost there. And that will initiate, if this approval comes, that will initiate the closing of that property and the transferring of funds, which Sonia will be dealing with at that time. Now, this is a big step. We already went to the step where we went all the way down the list. We went environmentally. We got environmental clearance for this project. Stacy presented it to the Planning Commission and to the City Council. It was consistent with the city's general plan. We did that. That was a big step. The other step we did present to you from Indigo and Plio Architects a while back, and that was September 18th, 2019. Seems like a while, but the Public Facilities Needs Assessment Report. We did present that to you. You did accept it as it is. Now, as we go forward here, I explained the process of closing. Exactly when, I can't tell you when because we're working on the grantees, but it'll be very close if we get this approval tonight from you to process these papers, the paperwork involved. But currently, we're reviewing RFQs, which is requests for qualifications for the next big step, and that's to add project management services to this contract. We add that before we add architects, not the first architect, but the actual architect that designs. We need to add that in the beginning because they give us a control over what type of building we're going to build, actually, how to look at the financial constraints of it. They help us with writing the RFP for the architects. They go all the way through the whole stage, and then they actually manage the actual construction out in the field with input from staff when they ask for it and issues like that. So we actually have that in-house now, and I believe we got 4 of those that we're reviewing. We are trying to narrow that down to 2 to do interviews on that, and we're hoping to do that in the next couple of weeks. And hopefully late March or April, we will bring that back to you, and we will have a project management service team on board to get this project started. What's really important and the first goal that we'll be shooting for these, if you remember the needs assessment study, I believe the phase 1 of the police station was in the $25 million estimated range, and that does not at all agree with our ability to finance it at the moment. So, I mean, is that correct, I think? So one of the first steps that we're gonna be asking this project management services team is to look at different ways of financing, different construction types, how maybe to cut this project down cost-wise. We're not talking about size or need, but how to make cost-wise, whether it's the old term that's called design build or it's whether it's a shell type thing when they build it off-site and move it on. There's different ways to look at this. It's just we have to find different ways than standard construction if we want to try to get within the parameters financially that we are going to be restricted on. So that's the first big project that they'll start working on immediately. So with that, I mean, this is a really nice relief step. The funds to purchase this is in the adopted budget under the land purchase account in the police station, in the police funds. And we're just hoping for you to approve this so we can move forward, purchase the land. And then the next time you'll see us and an update will be when we put the project management team on board. So.
Any questions for Mark at this time? Okay, no questions. Do I have a recommendation or a motion? Mr. Lewis?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 6185 as read by title.
Mr. Jones?
Second that.
Motion by Lewis, second by Jones for the approval of resolution number 6185 as read by title. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? None carried. 2 historic decisions tonight.
Thank you very much for both.
Thank you. Right, let's go on to item 11. Consideration of options to revise the composition of the Merced County Association of Governments Governing Board. Alex?
Yes.
Yours?
Yes, it is, Mayor.
Okay,
And we do have a
all right,
couple of slides in a PowerPoint.
let's try this. There we go.
All right, there we go. Thank you. Okay, I'm on. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
So I'll just jump right in. The MCAG Governing Board appointed a subcommittee of board members to look at the governing board composition. That subcommittee was made up of our very own Supervisor Scott Silvera, Supervisor Lloyd Pereira, Mayor Mike Murphy from Merced, and Council Member Oliveira from Gustine. While there was no consensus amongst the subcommittee on a preferred alternative. They did discuss a number of options. And what I'm planning on doing this evening is just running through the various options that they discussed and the options that will be presented at the board meeting, MCAG Governing Board meeting tomorrow. Really, this is an opportunity to give the mayor some direction, for you as a council to give the mayor some direction as he represents the city tomorrow at that governing board meeting. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So there are 4 options that are outlined in the MCAG staff report. Number 1, simply to take no action. Number 2, the following slides have a little bit more detail on each of these options. Option B, add 4 additional seats for the largest cities. Option C, add 4 additional seats for largest city and for each West Side city. And then option D is a weighted voting system. So option D, or A, I'm sorry, results in no change to the board composition, and the governing board would not need to take any action to move forward with option A. Option B, adding 4 additional seats for the largest cities. This translates into 2 additional seats for Merced. So that would be a total of 3 seats for Merced, 1 additional seat for Los Banos, and Atwater. So that would be 2 seats per city for Los Banos and Atwater. And that would change the governing board to 15 board members. Option C, adding 4 additional seats for the largest city and for West Side cities. So that would add 1 additional seat for Merced, 1 for Gustine. Formatting's off a little here, sorry about that. 1 for Gustine, 1 for Los Banos, 1 for Dos Palos. So each of those cities would have 2 representatives on the governing board, and then again, that would change the total board to 15 members. Option D is a weighted voting system, and that would require 2 conditions for the board for any board action to occur. A majority of the board would need to vote to approve an item, meaning 6 out of 11. So this would not result in any additional seats to the board. So you'd need 6 out of 11 to pass an item, and then to meet a second condition, which would translate into representation from at least 50% of the county's population out of the 50% of the county's population. In terms of supervisorial votes, their votes would only be population in the unincorporated areas. So hopefully I translated that correctly. While none of these options is perfect, in an imperfect world, after some city attorney math, we think option C really kind of deals with that west side inequity, I'll say. And I do believe this option was presented by Supervisor Silvera at the subcommittee meetings. I don't know if he has any comments or if the council would indulge at that point, but that's really my presentation. We don't have a recommendation. Again, the purpose of the item is for you as the council to provide some input and direction for the mayor as he attends that governing board meeting tomorrow. So with that, we'll attempt to answer any question, and that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Scott, you want to say a few words?
Why don't you bring the council first, Mr. Mayor? Because I have a question.
Okay, that's fine with me. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Alex, I see in the information that was handed out to us that Fresno's COG has one vote for each city and one vote for Board of Supervisors. The options that you presented to us, is this something that came out of the committee, or does this council have an option to have an input as to maybe adding option E?
I think if the council has another option, there's certainly the ability to develop an option E, F, G, H, or I. But absolutely, I think if there's an interest in developing a hybrid or a different recommendation, I think that's at the pleasure of the council.
Any other questions before I bring Mrs. Silvera up? Okay, Scott?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. And so, yeah, option C was kind of my option, and I can tell you I was the only one that supported it. But the reason I came up with this option is there's clearly two. Oh, let me start out by saying board members, county board of supervisors losing seats. I just didn't see an appetite for that to change. There wasn't ever going to be enough votes for that to change. And so, as I look at it, I try to offer up what I think are real solutions to problems and what is something that could get across the finish line. And there's two distinct issues that folks have with the makeup of the MCAG board, and this is just my interpretation of them, but I had to go with that. Is there's obviously an east side, west side kind of split, if you will. No matter where you cut it, the east side has more votes than the west side does. And so there's one option. And then probably, I don't want to speak out of turn, but my interpretation from one particular city on the east side is that they're the biggest city in the county and therefore they should have more representation. And so with nobody really offering up any solutions up until this last subcommittee meeting we had, I thought, well, how do you try to address both of those problems? And so to me, I know it sounds kind of crazy. I don't know if it gets enough votes to get across the finish line, but it addresses the east side, west side thing because now you've given the three cities on the west side another vote. So it equals out into, in my math, it's kind of like 7.5, 7.5, because you have the District 4 supervisor who represents both sides. And then, just for good measure, which I was kind of taken back by, I just always assumed that when you're in any of these type of organizations, you always try to have an odd number of voters, right? On the council, you have 5, so you don't end up with ties. But in looking at other COGs, they don't follow that math. Some have 13, 14. It's kind of all over the place. So sticking with trying to keep with that odd number, it says, well, you can address Merced's issues by giving, they're the largest city, they get an extra vote as well. So that's the option that I presented. I can share with you my concerns on option 4 is the fact that I represent 56,000 people, and makeup of my district is that, these are rough numbers, but if 42,000 live in the city limits of Los Banos and 6,000 live in the city of Gustine, that's 48,000. So then now my vote for population only counts for 8,000 people. And I'm just going to tell you, I have a real hard time with giving up representation of 48 other thousand people that I represent. And it's, Supervisor Lohr in her district would literally, her vote would only count for, I'm really speculating on numbers, but like 1,000 people, because her district is all in the city of Merced. And then opposite of that, Supervisor Pereira, of his 56,000 people, it's like 50,000 of them live in the unincorporated area. So I think that it was kind of taken from the Fresno COG's concept, but the difference there is Fresno COG only has one member of the Board of Supervisors, but that one member of the Board of Supervisors carries all the population for all 5 of their supervisors. So it was an attempt, I guess. I just didn't care for it myself, but I hope that helps. And if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions? Mr. Freer?
Questions, comments? As you know, I've researched this stuff for a long, long time. I think I had all the counties in the region memorized at one time. Madera County, I think, runs 6. I think 2 from City of Madera, 1 for Chowchilla, and then 3 supervisors. I think that's the only one I remember with an even number. I like the idea that you're putting forward. 2, 2, and 2 gives the west side a fighting chance. It gives, Lloyd Pryor is Gustine, right? Yeah, essentially it gives that seat a very great amount of power, because it's all amount of convincing that seat which way that whoever's sitting in that seat's gonna go. But at least it gives some weight to our side. I agree, the one with the weighted voting, I don't like at all. I think the representation of persons on there, yeah, I think it's the best way to go. Everything else is everything else still leans to the east side population-wise. I'll wish you good luck getting this passed, though.
Yeah,
I'll say
I'm a
I'll
realist.
say a rosary tonight for you.
Yeah, I'm a realist with that, Mr. Freya, and you know, but at least to me, I know it's not a perfect scenario, but at that
an
point,
attempt.
I was frustrated that everybody had reasons why, but I didn't hear no options, and so I even went into the meeting saying no, I didn't go crazy, but it's a realistic attempt to try to address what I see are the issues, and so yeah, I mean, it's all we can do. It's all we can
Yeah.
ask for.
Well, the conversation is a very old one. It's over 200 years old, because that's why we have 2 branches of Congress. It has to do with regional representation versus population representation. That's why we have the Electoral College. And so you're dealing with exactly the same issues, population versus regional needs. And if I remember, this is just a little bit of very old trivia. If I remember right, I once heard a story that there was on the governor's desk a bill to split Los Banos, the west side, off to its own county.
Correct.
And and it was because I think Henry Miller and the governor had an argument, so the governor wouldn't sign it. It was supposed to be Los Banos, Gustine Dos Palos, and I think it went all the way to Newman. But it was, and just as you see on the other side, Mariposa County, that used to be all one county, Merced. And their differences are so great that they decided to make their own county. Unfortunately, in the modern world, I don't think we'll ever see that happen. So I think this is a good attempt. Once again, it puts Lloyd Pereira at this time, it puts that seat, what's that, is that 3? 4. That's 4. That puts that seat in it. That's like the vice president sitting in a 50-50 Congress. And, but at least it gives us a fighting chance, because right now it's 7-4. Right now it's 7-4, or 7 to, I guess you could say 7-4.5, 6.5 to 4.5. But that's still, it's always gonna go the same way. I will say though, and I would like MCAG to hear this too, because we have made a lot of noise over here, they have different entities in the county have made an effort to recognize Los Banos' needs. And I think we've seen that in some of our Measure V meetings. And I'd like to send those good wishes over them, that respect for the fact that many of them are respecting our position here much more now than they used to.
And just as a side note, you kind of brought up something else that I just want to remind everybody that this still doesn't change Measure V. It just doesn't change the makeup of the Measure V East Side Projects Committees, West Side Project, Regional Project Committee. Those working groups were set in the measure itself. So that I don't want anybody to get confused that if you change the makeup of the MCAG board, that it changes the makeup of Measure V, because it doesn't. That is not impossible, but that would take. It's the way that I understand it. It has to go back to the voters to make those changes.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, your recommendation, I think, is the ones I've had there, the ones I see up there. The best gives us the best hope, and hope is a good word there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Savara.
See, this, and again, this is an old argument. We've never had the ability to get anything across, because we've always been outvoted because of the way the situation between the East and West. And, I quite frankly don't blame MCIG. It's not anything that's, it's not personal, it's business. And in this case, it's strictly business, to where they want what they want for the East Side, and I don't blame them. But when it comes down to fairness and the West Side not receiving funds, and we have to go up against monumental effort, it has to be a monumental effort in order to secure anything over here. It's not right. And so this is the first time, and I have a glimmer of hope, because people are realizing, whether this passes or not, there's fragmentation here because people are realizing that the voting structure at MCAG is not fair right now. And this council has always felt that way, and I'm glad Mr. Silvera has joined his voice to say that there's an alternative that he would like to put forward. We've never had that before, so I appreciate that. And I'm hoping that that people will see fit, and this will. I also like Measure C, not Option C, and I think it's a very good start. And I'm hoping that people will see it that way, and they'll see it's just a matter of fairness, so the west side can grow the same way the east side has grown, and that the money that's been placed over there now will hopefully flow over here. Because we passed something that's we went back and restructured and came up with a project on Pioneer, and it's absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful project. Now, do we have a chance of getting any funding? If this passes, I think we'll have a much better chance of getting that. As far as Measure V, since that was brought up, I have to thank Sonia and Gary for that one, because what we did is the three of us went over on the committee, and we voted against Measure V because we didn't like MCAG in control of all the money. So the concession was that we form an East Side and a West Side committee. And if Measure V passed, that we would have East Side money and West Side money. And I can't tell you what a stroke of genius that was, because Measure V passed, and now we have an East Side and a West Side committee. And it works. It works.
I
So,
believe so.
pardon me?
I said I believe so.
Yeah. So I'm hoping we can take this forward. I will be there tomorrow with my yes vote on Option C.
Well, you got to listen to what the rest of your council gives you direction first.
Well, my yes vote tonight.
Yes, sir. All right, thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Lewis? Yes, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry, Mrs. Santos was next. I'm sorry.
I go first, actually, because I wanted to hear. Okay. Well, I think it was thinking that option C is the better of both worlds, as it was put by eloquently. But I know you had mentioned an option E, so I was actually kind of wanting to hear what your ideas were for something like that, to take into account.
Which is the largest county within the Central Valley area, has 15 seats on its COG because it has 15 different cities within its jurisdiction, including the Board of Supervisors. Now, I'm not sure how many people on their board, probably the same as ours or more. I don't really know. But they've chosen the equitable way of only having one representative from the Board of Supervisors. Now, Supervisor Silvera says that, the supervisors collectively come together and present their position, and that supervisor represents what they want to do on that board. But at least, every city has one vote, including the Board of Supervisors. And I know, we keep hearing that none of the supervisors want to give up their positions, but, fair is fair. And there's no guarantee that the supervisors that represent, the two that represent the west side are going to go with the west side. And that's where I have a strong opinion. I know that the mayor wants to see this other option, but, I'm a person where real fairness should be real fairness. And that's one seat for every city and one seat for the Board of Supervisors. That's probably not going to pass with this council tonight, but that's my feeling, because I think it really, truly brings equity. And if the Board of Supervisors want to get together and collaborate about what they want to do in their various districts, then they have that option. So for me, that's fair, that everybody has one vote and there's one seat for every vote. No matter, we have, 5 people that sit up here. Why don't we have 5 people sitting on the COG from Los Banos? Why should the Board of Supervisors have 5 people and we have one representative from the city of Los Banos. That's not fair, and it's not equitable to me. So that's my opinion, and, you know, I'll probably be the one that won't vote for option C tonight, because I think this is a more fair option. Whether they want to go with it or not, it's fair. So that's my opinion.
I'd like to just give you a response that, you know, I just don't think that would have a blank chance in whatever
I
of passing.
understand, but most
Yeah.
things that you've presented to them haven't passed either.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I'm in a perfect world. I think, Mrs. Lewis, you are right. I think this is the first time that we've ever had any options to come up with to make it more equitable for the west side. And yes, one vote, one body would be a great idea, but I don't think we're there yet with this board. And so I'm just trying to be a realist in saying that, yeah, you're right, but I just don't think that that would ever get to first base with the group. That's all.
And I understand your position.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Freya?
I agree with both of you. Ms. Lewis, your idea is, it is, I think, more fair. But just looking at the board and the history of this board, I don't think we'd have much a snowball's chance of getting it through, and that's why. Otherwise, I would make that recommendation. The only way you would ever be able to get to that point is if the 6 cities, or at least, your 6 cities would have to find that they had enough in common that they would unite to make that vote. As long as it's east side, west side, you'll never get that point. But the only way you would ever be able to get that to a point where you'd have 6 cities and 1 supervisor is if the 6 cities decided that's what they wanted. Then you would have your 6 votes out of your 11, and you could get that done. Thank you.
Mrs. Santos?
Thank you. One last comment. I want to thank you for sharing that. I do appreciate it. And I hate to even say that it almost sounds like a utopian idea to have it that way, but I do personally feel that we probably never get there. But thank you once again. But yeah, I say option C would be the best for us tonight. So for me, I'd say if we were to go back and my comments to you, Mayor, would be option C on my behalf. So thank you.
Okay. And Mrs. Lewis, I don't want to put down anything that you said. I think you're perfectly right. I just, right now, I'm just trying to be a realist to if this passes, to get whatever we can for the west side. And so I understand. Okay, any other comments? All right, if not, do I have a recommendation and a second? From someone? Mrs. Santos?
So on that one, I am making a recommendation to approve what option C as for you to go forth to MCAG, correct?
Okay, do I have a second? Mr. Freya?
You have a second.
Okay, it's motion by Santos, second by Faria, to bring option C as my voting, as my vote of record to the MCAG meeting tomorrow on this agenda item. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
No, on principle.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Lewis. Okay, motion carries 4-1. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Farrar. Okay, let's go on to advisement of public notices, item 12. And tonight we have 3 reports.
Yes, the first item is a site plan review. This is for Verizon Wireless for a monopole that would be located in the industrial park off of Wilmot Avenue. The second is a proposed
What's a
ordinance.
monopole? What is mono?
Yes,
Okay.
it's one single pole, but in this particular instance, it will be camouflaged like a tree. It will be 70 feet in height, but it it will look like a tree. It won't just look like an antenna.
Not a palm
tower.
tree or something, I mean something
No,
that
it'll look like an evergreen.
the attorney wants a Christmas tree.
We'll make that happen.
Okay, all right.
Second is a proposed ordinance for reasonable accommodation. This is to be consistent with fair housing laws within the state of California as well as the federal government, and this is in compliance with our housing element. And so we will be bringing that forward. And then the second is for Senate Bill 2 compliance. This would be as it relates to removing barriers for development of supportive and transitional housing, emergency shelters, and single-room occupancies in accordance with state housing element law as well. These are both, those ordinances are both required of our housing element, and in order to show compliance to the Department of Housing and Community Development within the state of California, it is
Didn't we already
important
do something like that?
In these particular, no, we have not brought these particular items forward to the council yet in compliance with our housing element. We have done density bonus, we have done accessory dwelling units, which
Yeah.
we're going to have to come back in and make those revisions
Okay.
in the future based on new state legislation. But these particular items are going to be presented to the Planning Commission on Wednesday, February 26th at 7 p.m. Here in the council chambers, and that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on advisement or public notices? All right, let's go on to item 13, city manager's report. Alex? Here, I'll do it. Wait a minute. It's not, there we go.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
So just quick reminder, Saturday, March 7th is the Los Banos Annual Spring Cleanup, 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Spring Fair parking lot at 4th and F. So anything you have to dump or unload, you can, well, maybe not anything, but annual spring cleanup on that date. And secondly, thank you to the finance staff. There's plenty of things for city managers to lose sleep over. It's reassuring, and I lose less sleep over our finances. So thank you, Sonia. Thank you to the crew. Appreciate the hard work and the effort. And that's all tonight, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Item 14, report update on MCAG Association of Governments, MCAG and Measure V Committee. Well, the only thing I'd like to bring forth is that we're going to get an update on the Billy Wright dump site expansion. And Mr. Silvera and I have been working on this item because we want to ensure that, and we are in lockstep, that we have a dump site on the west side. Because if we don't, it will impact Dos Palos, Gustine, and Los Banos severely if we don't have this kind of facility, because then everything will have to be transported to Highway 59. And that will be tremendously expensive. So we're working hard to make sure that that happens. And in the process, we want MCAG to make money because they're taking in outside trash. And one of the important factors of this is that we're going to have organic waste now, or cooking oils, things like that. And so that is probably something that may need to be transported someplace else. So Los Banos would be the perfect site for that. And so there are a whole bunch of different changes coming up in the next couple of years that involve any type of waste disposal. The city of Los Banos is ahead of the curve because we have a green can, we have a blue can, and we have our trash can. But now they're going to be doing organic waste and adding some other things. So that's going to be for businesses too. So Los Banos needs a dump site because we do not want our waste material going to Highway 59, because that'd be another transportation of another 50 miles and very, very expensive. So we're working hard to get that done. Scott, do you want to add anything to that? Okay, thank you. Thank you. So we're in lockstep on this. I just want you to know that, and we really want to make sure that it ensures that, that Los Banos has a site, a Billy Wright site for many, many years to come. So that's all I have. Yes. Yeah, okay, just briefly, because I can't go into too much, but yes.
Well, should I direct it to our city attorney to see if maybe it can be answered or not?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I guess I'd just like to, you said that MCAG is taking in trash from other places. Is that at our site or at 59?
At both of them.
Okay.
At both
So
of them.
with the expansion, I guess what I'm, want to know is that practice still going to continue?
Well, we'll have facilities for the next 90 or 100 years, even with take-in trash.
Okay, that's
Okay?
all I need to know.
Yeah. Now, with take-in trash, and I'll just make this very brief, we're going to run out of space in decades to come, and we don't want that. So it's a balance with making money and airspace. I guess that's the only way I can put it. All right. Okay, let's go on to item 15, City Council member reports. Tonight we'll start with Mrs. Santos.
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to say thank you to Sonia and our financial staff. Thank you so much. That is actually very, very nice and great thing to hear. So thank you very much for all you do. And all employees, thank you. You work so hard with so little. So thank you very much every day for what you do and the sleep you lose every night, probably due to the things you have to work on. So that's all I have today, Mayor.
Thank you. Let's go on to Mr. Jones.
No report, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Let's go on to Mrs. Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'd like to give a shout out to Sergeant Ivan Mendez in his promotion as head of our Code Enforcement Department. And an additional thanks to Sergeant Seha for his years of service to help develop the direction of the department. However, I know that Sergeant Mendez is going to be very efficient and eager to take that development even further. So thank you to both of our police officers for overseeing that department. The other thing I wanted to make mention of is that we're in a political season now. And when we go, anyone who's running for office, when we go to Merced County to pull papers, there is, a list of do's and don'ts that we're supposed to do in regards to operating, your campaign, putting up your signs when they have to come down and such. Now, depending on where a candidate may be pulling their papers, it doesn't necessarily have to be within Merced. So we have a situation, and it's kind of been ongoing over the years, where sometimes people who are running for bigger positions that don't have to pull papers in our county, I would assume, are putting up signs in our public spaces. So we only have 2 weeks left before the election comes up. And we have some signs that are out there in our public spaces on Pacheco and Mercy Springs in front of McDonald's, up and down Pacheco Boulevard, on West I and Pacheco, and on 7th Street. I believe that turns into Stone Creek in our newly landscaped area. I know our staff is overly busy with so much to do, but as I said, we've got elections coming up here in November and probably some in June, and it's going to be a terrible mess if we don't get control of this now. So I'm just hoping that we can, get Staff Alex to get out there pretty quickly to mitigate this situation, because, people aren't going to pick up any signs after this election cycle's over, and I don't really know what the process will be once this cycle is over, if they have to come up or if they can stay out there until November. So I just kind of want to bring that up. I think it's only fair, anyone who runs in Los Banos, whether it's city council, whether it's school board, whether it's our board of supervisor, we have to follow these rules. So it's only equitable that everybody else who's running for an office follow those same rules, and that we hold them to the same standard. And that's it for this evening. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. And thank you, Mrs. Lewis, for that comment. Okay. So we went to a gathering this morning. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I forget Mr. Faria? I am so sorry. I am so sorry. You're back.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Go ahead.
Sorry to disappoint you.
Yeah. You haven't disappointed me.
We send out our deepest sympathies for Porterville, losing 2 firemen. Unbelievable, unbelievable tragedy because of some really despicable behavior. So, fire, your brothers, we know how you guys feel. Many of you work together on many jobs together on these when you get called out. So, it hits you all. It hits us all. So, we send out our deepest sympathies there. Another deepest sympathy we send out is Los Banos lost one of its most illustrative citizens. He was the band director here at the high school for 36 years. And he was named Military Band Director of the Year back in the 90s when he directed the 561st Air National Guard Band, Gary Wilburn. And he was one of my mentors, one of the greatest musicians I've ever known, one of the greatest music teachers I've ever known. We lost him last week, just before Valentine's Day. We send out our sympathies to everyone who knows Gary, loves Gary. He had so many students. And Cindy, his wife. And then now on a brighter note, congratulations, Finance. Consistently excellent work. And it makes, like Alex says, a lot less to lose sleep over. We give him enough, so he doesn't need Finance too. So we want to, and I would thank Supervisor Silvera for coming tonight for our little MCAG discussion. And have a good evening. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay. What, do you want to give him more work now that you're back, or
Pardon me?
do you want to give Alex more work now that you're back?
Oh, give me time.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. All right. Make a note, Alex. All right. So today we went to a gathering and we had guest speakers by the police chief, economic development, and Mason Hurley discussing different aspects of the city and the Downtown Association and the PBID committee. And awards were given out today. And thank you to all those people that made the improvement of the downtown possible. And now they'll have some extra funds. And also how the city can contribute. So the city needed the people there, the people there today from both committees understood what the city cannot do, and what's on the horizon as far as economic development. So thank you, Mason, thank you, Stacy, and thank you, Gary, for coming forward today and talking to the group. Because the more people understand of the city's interaction with the citizens and the business community, the better for all of us, because then we have a more educated community. So it's just nice to have these discussions and get the word out as to what we can and can't do and what we can partner with. But we're looking forward to great things in the downtown. We have 2 buildings that were in great need of rehab, and it's happening. And thank you to all involved in getting that done. Thank you. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go on to closed session, item 16. Conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, agency designated representatives, City Manager Terrazas, City Attorney Vaughn, City Clerk, Human Resources Director Maloney, Finance Director Williams, Police Chief Breezy, Fire Chief Hurley, Legal Counsel Tufo, employee organizations, Los Banos Police Officer Association, LBPOA, Los Banos Police Sergeant Association, LBPSA, Los Banos Firefighters Association, LBFFA, Los Banos Police Dispatchers Community Services Officers Association, LBPD CSOA, and Los Banos Public Employees Union Public Works Local 1/AFSCME, and unrepresented miscellaneous employees. We leave out anybody, or we good? Okay, I think we're good. All right, so we're gonna go into closed session, and if we have anything to report, we will do so when we return. Good night, everyone.